Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so if you're anywhere near digital media buying, trying to figure out which numbers really count,
Mm.
it's a constant battle, right? Maximizing visibility, impact. Well, it can be exhausting. Today, we're diving deep into maybe the ultimate scorekeeper for video ads,
hmm
the view-through rate, or VTR.
That's right. Our mission today is really to break down VTR. What is it? Why does it pretty much define success, especially in, skippable video ads? And crucially, what levers can you actually pull to influence whether someone sticks around or just clicks skip?
Yeah, because this metric, it feels fundamental if you want to get smarter about ad spend. It's the number that tells you if your, expensive creative work is actually doing its job or if it's just more digital noise.
Exactly. And what's really essential to grasp right away is that VTR isn't just about getting seen. It's about message integrity. So VTR is a key performance indicator, right, in digital advertising. Specifically, it measures how often people watch your video ad all the way to the end, completion.
Right, completion. So it's pretty binary then. Did they finish it or not? And why is completion the gold standard here, especially when platforms often charge just for an impression, right?
Yeah, it comes down to that skip ad button. Think about it. Your video ad, it's like this carefully built pitch, yeah.
Right.
Often, the call to action, the really critical bit, what you want the viewer to do, it's tucked away near the end. So if someone skips after 5 seconds, well, the advertiser hasn't just lost an impression, they've lost the whole story, the brand message, the actual action.
Okay, so that's so what's for the advertiser? VTR gives you the only real clue about what slice of your audience actually got the full intended message.
Precisely. And that insight, that's what fuels smarter decisions. It influences everything. Should we run a 30-second spot or a 15? Which audience segments just aren't responding? VTR helps you optimize the format, tighten your targeting, and ultimately figure out where your ad dollars are actually, delivering that core story most effectively, maximizing your return.
Okay, makes sense. We've definitely set the stakes. Let's get into the math a bit, because the calculation is key here. How simple is it to figure out VTR?
It's actually quite straightforward, elegant even. VTR is just the total number of complete views expressed as a percentage of the total number of times the ad was served the impressions.
Okay, let's use an example like the one in our source material just to ground it. Say an ad is shown 1,000 times, and out of those, exactly 100 people watch it right to the very end. The VTR is
10%. Simple division. 100 divided by 1,000.
But yeah, like you said, the meaning behind that 10% is pretty significant.
Absolutely. The math's easy, but interpreting it,
Yeah.
that needs context. So the big question that always follows is, what's a good VTR?
Right. And the sources give us a kind of rule of thumb. They suggest around 15% is generally seen as a solid workable number, particularly for in-stream ads, on the big video platforms. But, and this is a big, but we absolutely cannot treat 15% as some magic number.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels too simple. It is. That number bounces around wildly depending on so many things. Ad length, obviously, the platform itself, what industry you're in, and critically, who you're targeting. A luxury car brand aiming for a tiny, super specific audience might actually see a VTR way up, maybe 25%, whereas a big retail campaign trying to reach everyone might be perfectly happy with 10% if the volume is huge.
And there's another trap, isn't there? Focusing only on VTR. Because chasing a super high VTR could actually mess up other important things, like cost.
Oh, absolutely. That's the balancing act. A sky-high VTR looks great for brand exposure, for that sort of passive engagement. But if your cost per completed view, your CPCV, goes through the roof because you're only targeting people who never skip ads, well, your budget's going to evaporate pretty fast.
Okay. So what we're really aiming for is VTR that's high enough to be confident the message is getting through, but balanced. So you're still reaching a good chunk of your target market without just burning cash. VTR is just one piece of the puzzle. It needs to sit alongside conversion rates, click-through rates, cost metrics.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about the context of your specific campaign goals.
Okay, great. Let's pivot then to the really actionable stuff. What can advertisers actually do to try and nudge that VPR up from, say, 10% towards that 15% benchmark or even higher? Our sources pointed to 4 key areas, 4 levers. Let's start with maybe the most obvious one, ad length and placement.
Yeah, shorter is often better, or safer, maybe. There's a sort of mental calculation a viewer does when they see that little timer on the ad, isn't there? A quick 6-second bumper ad, it just inherently keeps more people watching than a full 30-second spot. It's less of a commitment, less cognitive load.
That makes sense. In placement, too. The sources say pre-roll ads, the ones right before the video you wanted to watch. They consistently do better than mid-roll or post-roll.
Yeah.
That's that. Just annoyance factor.
It's partly that, yeah, annoyance, but also attention. With pre-roll, the audience is kind of captive, sure, but their attention is often peaked. They're waiting for their content, focused on the screen. Mid-roll, though, that's an interruption. It pulls you out of what you were watching, often leads to, instant frustration and a quick skip. That context of interruption really hurts VTR.
Okay, yeah, that tracks. Lever number 2, relevance to the audience. Sounds basic, but how does getting really specific with targeting actually lift VTR?
Well, it's about going beyond just age and gender, right? We're talking about things like contextual targeting. So showing an ad for, say, hiking boots on a video about mountain trails, or using sophisticated audience segmentation like lookalike audiences based on people who've bought from you before. When the ad feels less like an interruption and more like a genuinely useful suggestion, the urge to skip just drops.
That's not just showing the ad to, like, man age 25, 34.
Yeah.
It's showing that coffee ad to someone who just watched 3 videos about home espresso setups.
Exactly that. And good targeting also helps fight ad fatigue. If you just hammer the same audience segment with the same ad over and over, they just learn to skip it instinctively. It becomes habit. And that tanks your VTR for that creative. So managing frequency and context is vital too.
Right. Okay, third lever, platform characteristics. This really speaks to how fragmented everything is online. The environment itself matters hugely.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to tailor your approach to the specific sandbox you're playing in. Platforms with those really prominent immediate skip buttons, think standard YouTube ads, they naturally tend to have lower VTRs. Skipping is just easy, the path of least resistance.
But if you run that same ad, say, on a connected TV platform, maybe in a non-skippable slot during a streaming show, your VTR could be close to 100%, couldn't it? So are we even comparing apples to apples with that 15% benchmark across different platforms?
No, definitely not. And that's a really key insight from the sources. You have to benchmark within the platform type. Compare YouTube VTRs to other YouTube campaigns, CTV to CTV. Plus, device matters too. Mobile users, often multitasking, scrolling quickly. They tend to skip more. Lower VTRs usually. Desktop viewers might be more settled, more focused. You might need different creative and certainly different VTR expectations for each.
Which leads perfectly into the last lever, maybe the most powerful one, ad quality and creativity. This is where the art really meets the science, isn't it?
Totally. Well, it's non-negotiable, really. If you've only got maybe 3, maybe 5 seconds before that skip button appears, your creative has to work like an inverted pyramid. You need your most compelling visuals, your core brand identity, the hook, bam, right at the start, instantly.
Right. No time for a slow, gentle build-up or, artistic scene setting those first crucial seconds. You got to grab them.
Precisely. High-quality production, really tight, compelling storytelling, even if it's super short, and a clear, immediate sense of what's in it for me. These things are huge VTR boosters. A dull ad, frankly, even if it's perfectly targeted, just gives the viewer permission to click skip the second they can.
Okay, so we've established VTR measures completion passive engagement, essentially. But we really need to touch on its close cousin, click-through rate, CTR. They both give us clues about ad performance, but they measure very different types of user intent, don't they?
Hugely different. Yeah, this distinction is critical. VTR, like we've said, it tracks complete views. It tells you about brand exposure, message delivery, passive viewing. Did they see the ad?
But CTR, click-through rate, that's about action, intent.
Exactly. CTR measures how often viewers actually interact. They click a button, they visit your website, they engage in some measurable way. CTR gives you insight into active engagement, user activity, maybe even purchase intent. VTR is like them reading the whole brochure. CTR is them picking up the phone afterwards.
So the ideal strategy, the ideal analysis, really needs both VTR and CTR together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have a really high VTR, which is great, means people like the story, the brand got exposure.
Yeah.
But if the CTR is 0,
then maybe they love the ad but didn't know what to do next, or the call to action wasn't clear or compelling enough, or, conversely, you might have an ad with a maybe slightly lower VTR. But if those first few seconds were so incredibly compelling that it drove a high CTR people clicked before it even finished, well, that campaign might still be incredibly successful, right? Even with a technically lower completion rate.
The full picture. That's the only picture that really matters.
Okay.
So VTR, definitely a crucial metric, evaluating video ad effectiveness, assessing if our creative resonates. It gives us this really valuable, measurable lens on brand exposure in this super competitive skip-happy world.
Yeah, it tells us if we manage to win the battle for attention, even if just for 15 or 30 seconds.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, Maybe the biggest challenge that's emerged is really about those first few seconds. If VTR is the gatekeeper for getting your full message across, and platforms let users opt out almost instantly, it leaves us with a final kind of provocative thought for you, the listener.
Yeah. Given that tyranny of the 3 to 5 second skip window,
Yeah.
how should advertisers balance things? Do you risk maybe annoying viewers by jamming your most critical call to action right at the very start before they can skip, potentially sacrificing the story's flow just to make sure it's seen? Or do you focus everything on making those initial seconds artistically brilliant, hoping the hook is strong enough to make them want to stick around and not hit skip?
It really hammers home that need to blend those deep VTR insights with a really smart, probably quite front-loaded creative strategy. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into view-through rate. We hope this gives you some valuable takeaways for your next campaign.